Hey, welcome to episode 1 of my podcast. I want to keep this intro as short as possible because today, for the very first episode, I managed to get the best Trundle in the world here. So let's not waste any more time, okay? Enjoy. So tell me, Kagaaro, what got you into League, man?
So I started playing League in basically like season 3, right? Well, my brother started in season 3 and I started in season 4. But I was a kid back then. So for example, right now I'm 22 years old, right? So I've been playing this game for what, 10 years now? Maybe like about 10 years. So I think I can't remember the exact age, but I was literally like 10 or 11 when I started playing League of Legends. But as a kid back then, we only had one laptop, which was my brother's. And when I got home from primary school, I was only allowed to play 1 or 2 hours on his laptop, like to game or do whatever I want, right? And back then, all I wanted to do was play Minecraft. I wanted to play cracked Minecraft. I didn't have enough money to, or we didn't have enough money to buy like a premium account, whatever. All I wanted to do back then was just play Minecraft. But I remember one day when I came back from school, my brother, he was completely sick of me playing Minecraft. He was like, "No, stop playing Minecraft. Can you play a different game or something?" And he was like, "Play League of Legends." I'm like, "No, I don't want to play League of Legends." But eventually he managed to convince me to play one game at least, right? And to be honest, my first game is still extremely vivid to me. Like I remember looking in Lissandra top lane for my first ever game, and I was completely clueless. I didn't play a tutorial. I didn't play like normal games. I did. Oh, I mean, it was a normal game, but I didn't play a tutorial. I didn't understand anything. All it was me playing Lissandra top, and he was telling me, "Oh, you have to use right click to move." I was like, "Well, usually I use WASD to play Minecraft, you know." But but yeah, I didn't actually enjoy my first game that I've ever played. But my brother kept on forcing me to play at least one game of League of Legends before I could play Minecraft. And eventually I just became addicted. So that's how I got into League. Shout out to my brother.
And how did you find Trundle, or how did you start playing Trundle from all champs?
So for context, basically, I used to be a jungle main for multiple seasons, right? So when I started playing League of Legends, again, I mentioned earlier, I started in season 4. I started playing ranked in basically season 5, and I was basically bronze 5 back in the day. Divisions had a fifth division or fifth rank. I was
Oh
bronze
yeah, I
5
remember
for
that.
so incredibly long, but I started taking it seriously in like season 6. And I was a jungle main. I played low mechanical champions like Zinzao, Rammus, Master Yi, Jarvan, sometimes Kha'Zix. Um, but just a little bit of context, right? I used to play Hecarim after watching Pantar Dragons in season 9. And I was a Hecarim OTP for a very, very, very long time. And that was the first time I ever hit like high elo, if that makes sense. Maybe like I think I hit Diamond 4, Diamond 5, and then the next season I hit Masters. Um, but then, yeah, back on the topic. After the jungle pet changes, and you know how they changed the jungle invading mechanics, where if you killed a jungle camp, you used to be able to leave one mini raptor or a wolf to keep the camp up. But then after they changed that mechanic where the camp will just reset, I just felt like that 1v9 domination carry style in the jungle was nerfed. And at the time, I'd hit my peak on jungle, 600 LP Masters EU West, and on EUNE I was about rank 6, 1400 LP. Um, but throughout this entire time I was playing jungle, Trundle has always been a secondary champion for me. Because the champion is very simplistic. No mechanics needed. All you have to do is just auto attack, right?
Yeah,
And at
yeah.
the time, I always used to watch Trundle Top 1. He's an NA Trundle Top legend. Shout out to my man. And also shout out
Yeah.
Trundle Daddy, US legend as well. But then one thing I realized when I watched his gameplay was the crazy level 1 power that Trundle had, which allowed you to just run down the enemy laner, and sometimes even 1v2 invading the enemy jungle, right? Um, and at the time, because I was a jungle main, I used to queue jungle and top. And when I was field top, I would just pick Trundle top with Ignite Flash and just play for that level 1 fist fight. Literally just for the dopamine. There were sometimes I would lose the lane, I would lose the game on repeat. Like 15 games in a row, I would just lose. But every single one of those games, I would get a first blood, and that was all I needed. Just that dopamine of me killing the enemy laner with pure dominance was that's all I needed. And then season 10 onwards, I started to two-trick Trundle and Hecarim in the jungle. And of course, like I said before, when I was field top lane, I would just play Trundle top. But when it comes down to when did I start playing Trundle seriously, I embraced Trundle top completely in like season 13. Because I had reached my peak as a jungler, that like 600 LP, 1400 LP, rank 6. I realized as a player, I couldn't really climb any higher. I had a limited knowledge in the jungle, and I mean, now that I look back at it now, I'm not ashamed to say, but I was just a full clear abuser, and Hecarim was absolutely broken at the time. Like I think Dantes pioneered the Chem Tank Manamoon build, and that shit was broken, bro. It was freelo.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
remember. I remember.
it was OP, yeah. And then I remember one day again. This was after they changed jungle, jungle changes. Uh, I woke up one morning. I was catching an early Trundle top one stream, and again I saw him 1v2 at level one, and it just reminded me of the time. Oh shit! Didn't I used to do that? You know, I was like, damn, I used to do that, and I had a lot of fun doing it. So I kind of remembered like I kind of had like a nice um what's that word I just reminisced about the good old days of just playing Trundle top, right? And I just decided, you know what? I'm gonna buy a fresh account and I'm gonna play Trundle top only. Keep in mind that this was the first time I ever played top lane seriously, because again, I was a jungle OTP. And to some miracle, like honestly, I actually like on my first ever like fresh account climb playing Trundle top, I actually outpeaked myself on EU West with a crazy win rate. Like it was crazy. I was like, when I did it, I was so confused. I was like, wait, am I built different like this? Am I like actually a top lane player? Because so basically I went 45 wins and 13 losses, 78% win rate Masters playing solo queue only. Again, I want to keep on mentioning this point, but this is my first ever time playing top lane seriously, right?
Holy
Three
shit.
days later, I climbed to 700 LP Grandmaster EU West with a 75% win rate, 80 wins and 27 losses. I actually made 2 Reddit threads, and I'll send them like now or after this podcast that you can put into the whatever, right?
Yeah, I can put it in the description.
Yeah. And then like you can be put on the screen or whatever. But from there, I just knew that this champion and this role was for me. You know, like the fact that I was able to outpeak multiple seasons of OTPN and playing jungle in basically 1 or 2 weeks of playing top was an absolutely insane feat to me, right? And yeah, that's just how I got to Trundle. Ever since then, been playing this champion.
Wow, that just sounds amazing. Like the dedication from the level one in thing to just trying a fresh account. So what season were you doing this thing? Like season 12, 13? I don't remember you.
Right, yeah. So I started playing Trundle seriously season 13, basically season
Oh,
13. But
so
I did
also a
two
bit
trips
late.
by season 10.
So wait, did you start playing him when he was like stronger? Because now he's like kind of shit, you know. He doesn't really fit in the
Uh,
meta.
Back when mythic items were in the game, that was when he was broken because of Trinity Force, Divine Thunderer, Hullbreaker was amazing back then. That was when it gave you like
Oh
ridiculous
yeah.
stats. That was when I think Trundle was at his peak.
Yeah, I do think that as well. Like I did play him a bit myself. I went from like Diamond 2 to like Diamond 1 really fast with him. That's like the only time I played him when he was like insanely strong. Like those
Yep.
videos, if you remember from like Dobby or whatever that guy is called.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yep, and
Yeah,
yeah, a lot of
exactly.
people made that Trundle split pushing video. But also, I think the playstyles has changed, right? Back then, you would play with these mythic items. You would play more to kill the enemy laner, whereas nowadays you're playing less to kill the enemy laner, more for towers, CS,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
different kind of stuff.
Yeah, I do understand that part. I think a lot of people when they think about Trundle, because the other day I was playing with some guy and he was saying, "Oh, like Trundle is like an insanely broken champion, like 1v1 early game." And I kinda disagreed with him. What do you think about that? Like
I
level
think.
one, I would say level
Mhm,
one he's obviously like insanely strong, but I feel like
yeah.
from level two to like first item, he isn't like the same. Just from my
Mhm.
own
I'd say
experience.
I'd say that Trundle's strengths comes from his level 1 and his level 2, but his level 3 to 5 are kind of mediocre, but then he gets another spike at level 6. But the true strength of Trundle isn't necessarily the 1v1 capability, because again, think about how Trundle as a champion is. All his damage is from auto attacks. And if you're unable to auto attack the enemy laner or your opponent, you're unable to do damage, right? And what counters auto attacks? CC, kiting, spacing, right? So at that point, when people say, "Oh, okay, Trundle is a very strong, 1v1 duelist," on paper and in theory, 100% I agree. But when you introduce skill into the equation, I simply disagree, because again, especially at the apex tiers, people understand how to space and how to play and understand how to space and play range, right? So the champion becomes weaker as skill is introduced.
Yeah, exactly. And you're also faced with this counter pick. Like I
Oh,
would I think like playing like first pick in Trundle in like high low. I think a lot of people get tilted when they see that because you will have to fight things like, let's say, Jax, or you have to fight some range champion like Jace, Gnar, Vayne. Like, I don't
100%.
see how you play against those. Like, really, I don't see.
And honestly, on that topic, right? Top lane is actually just a counter pick nation. Like, let's be real. If you're red side, if you're playing, if you're put on red side and you have last pick, you're basically like, call me delusional or whatever, but I swear you have like a 65, like a 55 to 60% higher chance of winning the game compared to blue side, right? For example, look at Surety, right? He's an NA pro player. He plays for
Yeah, the
Tigretos.
rank one.
He reached a record breaking 2,100 or 2,200 LP in NA, right? And before they changed like the MMR distribution system, right? Surety was getting red tide every single game, and he was able to counterpick with his bullshit range top laner. He was playing like Quinn, he was playing like his Jace, he was playing all these like no, not Quinn, he was playing Vayne, all these crazy champions, right? And he
Yeah,
was winning
yeah,
every game. Again, I'm not to discredit his skill or achievements, but that's just an example. I can pull out the top of my head, right? I just think top lane is a counter pick nation, and as a Trundle player, as an OTP, it's hard to pull him off in the Apex tiers. Obviously, if you're playing him in the lower elos, you can afford to blind pick because the enemies aren't able to abuse you as much.
yeah, of course. And that's why I think no one is willing to play Trundle just because of the counter pick part. Because in certain games, you even in high elo, let's say you play into Olaf. I know it's like one of the easier matchups because your ult counters him in like all stages of the game basically. But
Yep.
like I feel like first picking him is like suicide. That's just about it,
Oh,
you
it's
know.
terrible, absolutely terrible. Yep.
And that also makes him kind of difficult if you think about it. Like I would say in like Master Plus, it would be much easier for you to pick up, let's say, like an Ambessa. I really like Ambessa nowadays, by the way. That's why I might mention her a lot of times. But I think it's easier to play Ambessa in Master Plus than it's than like playing Trundle, you know, just because
Yep.
of the
100%.
first pickability.
Yep. I think Mbessa has like 10x higher skill ceiling than Trundle. So obviously, champions that have a higher skill ceiling at the Apex tiers tend to do a lot better because again, once you introduce skill into the equation, these type of champions you're able to take over the game. Whereas with Trundle, you're kind of limited in the way that you can play. Obviously, like this is the way I like to see it. Trundle, when you play Trundle and you're beating the enemy laner, it's not because you're better than them. It's because that the enemies are making more mistakes than you, right? And then maybe they're not respecting you enough, and that's the issue with Trundle. Uh, in the Apex tiers, I'd say.
I see, I see. So when you get in a game, what is your plan on Trundle? Do you look to invade? Do you think about scaling, playing to early kill, or I
Very
think you
good
mentioned
question.
earlier a bit, but
Yeah, but I can expand onto that point. It's a very very good question. I think when I play Trundle, the first thing I think about is how can I impact this game, right? Each game is dependent on the draft. But the beauty of Trundle is that you actually aren't forced to play with the team, right? For example, if you see, and this is something that I've personally went through as an example, right? If you see that the enemy team has a incredibly fed enemy ADC, right? One of my experiences was that I was playing against an enemy Draven who was 12-0 at 8 minutes of the game, right? You can like as a Trundle playing top lane, you can still solo win the game with an unorthodox like split push style, right? Where you can completely ignore the fed ADC, right? Especially when you're playing against a champion like Draven who needs to have characters on his screen to peel for him, right? So the way I see it, the general consensus is that Trundle is an early game champion that falls off in the mid to late game. I think it's partially wrong. Yes, on paper, Trundle is an early game, but in the sense that you're strong in the fist fight. But again, like I said before, when you introduce skill into the equation, it becomes more complex, right?
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but when you look at Trundle and his kit, right? Trundle has insane tower damage, and he has a lot of mobility. People don't understand that. Trundle has 350 base movement speed at level 1, or as base movement speed. And additionally, he has his W that gives him ridiculous 50% increased movement speed, right? So he does have a lot of early mobility. I think that you should play to your strengths. Every champion should play to their strengths, and Trundle's strengths is the side lane domination. So instead of playing for the early game of just fist fighting level 1, level 3, level 4, level 5, level 6, I would rather play to scale for my 2 item spike, Ravenous Hydra and Blade of the Rune King. just because Trundle's early game is strong, it doesn't mean you need to play for kills. You can use the pressure you have, you know, with first access to the wave, being able to proxy, playing for deep vision, creating pressure on the map. You can use that power that you have to scale to your 2-item spike, and then you can take over the game through side lane pressure. So again, you can, like, I'm kind of like rambling on a bit, but my philosophy on how to play Trundle is to play for neutral objectives, playing for CS, jungle camps, tower platings, towers, deep vision. You know, I think this is my personal opinion. I think that everyone in League of Legends is too fixed. Like everybody is too hyper fixated on KDA, right? In previous seasons, this was correct because there wasn't mechanics in the game for comeback mechanics. You know, like with the introduction of like tower platings, bounty system, objective bounties, and they even buffed tower gold buffs, right? You can actually get gold in other ways apart from kills, right? And so when I'm playing Trundle, I'm not necessarily looking for solo kills, but rather, again, I play to my strengths and play for the lane. I set up good wave states and I start proxying. And only when the enemy oversteps and makes mistakes, that's when I'm gonna exploit them and look for kills, right? The beauty of Trundle is that he has amazing mobility, so you're able to play like a mosquito. You just go into the enemy jungle. You place deep vision. You're just being annoying, right? One thing that I've pioneered, something that I like to call the Kagaaro Level 1 Deluxe. And obviously we've seen TikToks which have actually blown up, by the way. It's basically me invading the enemy blue at 126 and fist fighting the enemy jungler and the enemy top laner at their blue buff, right? Even if I'm not able to kill them, I think it's incredibly OP just for the information that you get, right? And the bonus is that your jungler has a higher tempo and therefore can impact the early game better. We're in the meta. We're in the meta right now that like full clearing is the meta, right? So whoever can get the full clear first, who gets to level 4, can get the first gank, has first move on the crab, etc., etc. So me going for this 126 invade and acting like a mosquito, just annoying the enemy jungler, is so beneficial. Not just for me, maybe I get a double kill, maybe I get 1 kill, but also for my jungler, right? So when it comes to the mid to late game, I aim to split push and impact the game through side. That is my comfort zone. I'd say as a Trundle OTP, I'm not mechanically gifted. Where I can where what my strengths are is my mid to late game macro, my decision making. And yeah, I like to play through side. And if I can't play through side, I'll just group up with my team.
Yeah, I think for new Trundle players, this is like the sauce, you know? Like it's so good for
100%, yeah.
Trundle players, what you just said. And what do you think about Trundle in this meta? I feel like this meta right now, how it feels. So they changed the game itself to be more teamfight oriented, right? I feel like that way.
100%.
And
I agree too.
they did one more change where they made from 6 grabs, they changed it to 3 grabs, which I think that killed most split pushers in my opinion. Like Trindamir, I saw his win rate go down by a lot. I think Trundle as well lost a bit of win rate. Shen became insanely OP because of it. Because he can always affect that Drake. And he doesn't need to bother about grabs anymore.
Yeah, I think again, this is a very good point to make. I think on paper, like back when there used to be 6 grubs, for example, grubs used to spawn at 6 minutes, right? And at the time, I developed a strategy. Basically, I was inspired by the Baus, obviously, but I developed a strategy where I start longsword and refillable potion, and I look to rush Tiamat. At the time, you were able to buy Tiamat consistently around 4 to 5 minutes, right? And therefore, you'd have the setup. You can proxy for grubs at 6 minutes. But now that there's only 3 grubs and it spawns at 8 minutes, I'm able to start D-Shield and D-Blade more often in certain matchups because I'm able to get my Tiamat around 5 to 6 to 7 minutes. So I would have the Tiamat before the grubs, right? So in my opinion, I actually prefer 3 grubs because they're a lot more powerful and you get them before the tower planes expire. Therefore, if you're able to touch the tower, you're going to evaporate these tower platings, and that's how you can expand and snowball your lead, right? I think when it comes to like, I guess it is a nerf to split push and later because you're only able to spawn 1 grub, but low key, it's so minimal that I can't really call it a nerf. The way I see it, if I'm hitting a tower, whether I have demolish or not, whether I have grubs or not, I'm going to take that tower. You know, like if I'm able to touch a tower, I'm taking it. It doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah.
Whether I have anything, you know.
Yeah, that's
But
like the Chad mentality.
yeah. Exactly, yeah.
And out of your out of your head, like randomly, how would you buff him? Like just a random buff for Trundle.
See, when it comes to like Trundle buffs, it's for me to say how can I buff Trundle. It's very hard to say because if you look at how Riot has designed Trundle, right? And this is confirmed by Riot Freak. You can probably search up a clip of it. I can send it to you actually. But Riot Freak literally has said that he's designed to be a low elo stomper. He shouldn't work in high elo. Maybe not necessarily he shouldn't work, but he shouldn't be as strong, you know? So as a result, I don't actually think he needs buffs with how Riot wants Trundle to be played. He does fine in lower elos, and I think his win rates are actually I think it's like 49 to 50%, maybe 51, 52 in lower elos. Obviously, when you are playing in higher elos, his win rate's gonna go like a lot less, right? But as a
Yeah, of
Trundle
course.
OTP, I mean, I'm incredibly biased, so I would love some buffs. I'm not gonna say no. I'm not gonna say no to any buffs, but I'm not delusional enough to say that Trundle was a shit champ. He needs buffs. He's unplayable. You know. If I were to buff Trundle, I'd probably give more power to his Q. Perhaps some like bullshit percent max health or current damage, like even like 1 to 5% extra like percent max health damage on his Q, right? And I spoke to like this is a topic I've spoke to about like I spoke to my boy Highbridge, who's the #1 volley in the world, right? And he broke it
Yeah.
down for me. The issue with Trundle in Apex tiers isn't the fact that Trundle is overtuned or has a lot of damage, but rather the fact that he's one dimensional and therefore extremely predictable, right? Again, I'm coming back to this point where how can Trundle kill you if he can't touch you? Like I argue that Trundle already has a lot of damage in his kit, but Highblade mentions the point to me that he gets kited out way too easily by CC. And all of these new season 15 champions have like 19 dashes, they have some cracked movement speed ability, or some bullshit like that, you know? So the issue with Trundle isn't necessarily like the damage, it's the fact that you can't get on top of them. So if I were to buff Trundle, I would actually give him more power because if I can get on top of them, it would make it a bit more playable.
So like more utility rather than stat check.
No. I'd prefer more stat check than utility because
Oh,
the
okay.
issue with
I see.
Trundle is like even if they give him 20% max health damage on his Q, champions like Jace, champions like Kennen, Aurora can space the shit out of Trundle, and it doesn't even matter because I won't be able to touch those champions, right? So
Oh yeah, okay.
that's how I see it at least.
Yeah, but it's like you said, he isn't supposed to be a high elo champion, so I guess it's kind of his design. Like fundamentally, he shouldn't work in high elo consistently, you know. But
Yeah,
somehow you make it
100%.
work. So I
Yeah,
think that's
yeah,
just amazing. Like even though it's not supposed to work, it just shows that like any kind of playstyle, once perfected, like once you're like insanely good at doing something, it just works. Like you find a way. You'll always find a way.
100%.
So based on like what I said now, I'm gonna show you like a clip and just give you like some input on it. Okay? So
Me with it.
let me like put some sound on this. Let's just watch this clip real quick. Okay?
Yep.
Right. So this is like from a streamer. He's like around Emerald right now, I think, or something like that. Yeah. So he kills his lane or whatever. And I feel like a lot of lower hero players struggle with this specific thing. Where let's just see like what he does, okay? So he kills.
Bro, Azir, fucking clear your lane and push the turret. Oh my god.
Yeah, you see he like loses focus already. Like he's like 4-1, but he's like giga tilted for no reason. Okay. Okay, he does this quick go behind the turret and now he just dies, you know, and for the rest of the game he just keeps complaining like about everything that is in the game, you know. He instead of like watching his like own part, his like own gameplay and
Has no R. Stop.
trying to
Kill
play
him.
better, carry the game.
Bro,
You see like
you have fucking ult!
oof. He just keeps getting like this, even though he's like somewhat winning. You
Such
see,
a handshaker pussy.
That was
Dog
overall
shit
good
later,
play.
man.
Like I would say
You
there
literally
was
just
there was no
shuffle him right
negative.
there, he's
Azir is
dead.
a scaling champion, right? He's
Why would
sure
you
I
not
guess
do
Azir
that?
could play a bit more
I
like
just
better,
killed their
right?
jungler.
But okay, I'm gonna let the clip play actually.
yeah, don't
Is that
worry,
it?
don't worry.
Or-
No,
Okay,
it's
yeah.
it's just a bit more like
And
afterwards he just starts complaining about like champions or like but he's not exactly like losing the game, you see what I mean, and he just keeps this mentality throughout all his streams. Like I've watched him a bit, like I'm not hate watching or anything, but I
Yeah.
just because this guy is like, I'm not hating on him, I'm just hating on this like mentality, because I see it on
Mentality,
so
yeah.
many players.
they're
I'm
top.
the exact same. I'm the exact same. I don't hate people who play badly, nor do I hate people who like, yeah, for example, if people play badly, it happens, you know. Literally every single person makes mistakes. Faker makes mistakes, Chovy makes mistakes, right? But I think it's incredibly important to understand that majority of League of Legends players, especially in lower elos, are playing for leisure, right? They get off work, they just finish studying, they want to play some League of Legends for fun, you know? Again, you can make the argument that, yeah, okay, if you want to play for fun, queue up normal games, don't play ranked. But I'm gonna be real, that's just not how it works, you know? Competitiveness and striving for greatness is rooted within us, right? Like, as we're brought up in society, again, I don't want to like ramble on about society and shit, but
Ah, you can go
everybody
on, you can
plays.
go on.
People want to play for fun, yeah, but people are still willing to climb and achieve greatness, right? So when it comes to a clip like that where he's obviously he's flaming the Azir, right? Who maybe doesn't know. You should give them the benefit of the doubt where maybe they just don't know what the correct decision is, right? And this is something that I like. Like it's very hard to. It's a debate, right? Because the thing about like that type of situation, it's not that low elo players aren't actively looking for ways to win, but rather they don't know how to win, right? So I'm not a fan of that clip in the sense that he's flaming the Azir. You have to give them the benefit of the doubt. Again, like you said before, he's playing an Emerald low, right? Or Emerald
Yeah,
elo. So you
somewhere
can't
around the
expect
world, yeah.
them to play like an absolute demon. You can't expect that. You can't blame them for incompetence. You can argue they're negligent, but that's as far as it can go. Like me personally, I hate blaming teammates for playing badly because again, they might not know what the correct decision is. And again, everybody's been there. But griefers, trollers, and typers, that's a different breed, bro. Like you can flame the shit out of them, I don't care. But people who are just playing the game, especially in lower elo, you can't expect them to make the perfect decision every single time. Maybe if you write it out for them, maybe if you type in chat, okay, maybe if he typed in chat, Azir, can you push out mid? Talon is roaming. And if he doesn't do that, maybe he then you have a right, maybe not a right, but you have more justification to be a bit more tilted, right? But in that clip there, he hasn't typed to he hasn't communicated to Azir what he should do. He could have, done the ping emoji, the push forward ping.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
could have done that,
of
and
course.
then maybe Azir would have done that, right? So I'm not saying that it's Wings of Death's fault, but I'm saying he could, what's the word? Impact the game a bit more. Use communications. Tell your team how to play the game. Nobody can read your mind.
Yeah, and it's not only that, but it's just the fact that if you do this consistently, you keep on losing focus, and you just start looking at your
Yep,
teammates a lot more than yourself, and
100%.
it's just like not a good mentality to improve or like win even. That's just like how I see it, and it does
I
happen to
completely agree.
everyone.
Yep.
But there are people who like make their entire personality just flaming like this, and you can just check like their win rates, their ranks. They are consistently at the same skill for like 10 plus years, which is just sad in my opinion, because they could change this one thing, so they don't need to change their gameplay entirely. They don't need to change their
Yep.
role, their champion. All they need to do is just watch their gameplay, like see their mistakes, and not like troll. Basically, it's almost like you can say troll at a certain point. All right then. So you also mentioned the statement, like low elo players are not actively looking for ways to win. Like I heard this statement before once, and I just took a note of it because I couldn't agree with it more. I feel like that's a big difference. Because you take any master plus top laner jungler, they will have like rituals, like let's say early game. They will have like a way of playing throughout like 10, 100 games, They are actively looking to do something, to get something done. Like you are actively looking with Trundle to like finish your Tiamat or like
Exactly.
hitting
Yep.
turret or something like that. But like lower elo players are like not focusing on this type of stuff. So what do you think
hmm
about this?
Yeah. I mean, again, that the statement is very complex. I'm pretty sure it could be debated and actually backed up with stats and examples. But my initial thoughts, if I take the statement literally, by literally like when I literally read it as low elo players are not actively looking for ways to win, I'd have to disagree. Because again, this is the point I made earlier. It's not that they're not actively looking for the win, but it's just they don't know how, right? And you can't blame incompetence. You can't blame it. They just simply aren't. They're simply unaware of what they should be doing, and that's not down to them. You would as you play more games and like you play more games, you're going to improve, right? That's why lower elo games last for 25 minutes plus consistently. It's because nobody knows how to play closeout games, right? Even if you're snowballing incredibly hard, people are making mistakes, and again, people are too fixated on chasing kills instead of playing the map and playing for the win, right? So, I guess you could argue that they aren't looking for wins because, again, people play for leisure, they play for fun. But it's a complex statement. It differs between person to person and based on their perspective. Because I'd say, judging from that clip of Wings of Death, I would say he would agree that people aren't low elo players aren't actively looking for ways to win. But me and you, we disagree with the statement, right? So it differs from person to person.
Kind of, yeah.
It's a subjective matter, yeah.
And what would your advice be for these players? Like, what would you advise them?
See, that's an amazing question because I absolutely love to talk about mentality and ranked, right? Because it's something that I can resonate very close with because me personally, I strive to be the best player I can be, right? I say this on stream a lot, but and then you can take it with a grain of salt, whatever. But like League of Legends ranked, the way I see it, is 70% gameplay and 30% mental. Because you can actually see a lot of players who are diamond low master peakers who are stuck, right? But they reach those ranks from gameplay alone. But they are incapable of dropping the ego and playing to improve. And
Oh, yes,
30%
yes.
is a lot, by the way. 30% is absolutely game changing. It's the difference between, in my opinion, the difference between master, grandmaster players to challenger players, right? And when people ask me, Kagaaro, how do you improve your mental? All I do is explain the North Wind and Sun Fable. And again, I'll send like the link to it afterwards, right? You can put it on the screen or whatever. I really want to like mention this because it's a philosophy that it's something that I follow really, really like hard, right? And I'm just gonna read out the fable, okay?
Yeah, go on, go on.
The North Wind and the Sun had a quarrel.
Yeah, now, I mean no disrespect to Kagaaro. This tale is like cool and all, but I'm not British, bro. Like, all I could think about is telling him, "Oi, mate, you trying to shank me?" And in case you wanna read what he just said, I'm gonna put it here on screen real quick. You can pause and read it.
Gentleness and kind persuasion win where force and bluster fail. And you might ask, Kagaaro, what the fuck does this mean? Why did you include this? But the way I see it, right? League of Legends ranked solo queue is more than just winning and losing games. It's a test of patience and respect. The ranked environment at this current moment, the meta, especially on Twitch, is so disgustingly toxic for no apparent reason. It's so easy to follow the crowd, and unfortunately, the easiest thing to do and the most popular thing to do is just to be toxic, disrespectful, and crash out, right? But what people need to understand is everyone is human and everyone should be treated with respect. What does losing in game mean? It literally means nothing, right? There is humility in losing and there is humility in winning. No one can read your mind. If you want someone to play a certain way, then use your chat and pings and communicate it. You don't need to take like an aggressive stance or flame your teammates to achieve this. Like, don't be toxic, you know? Try to be like the sun and radiate positive energy. When someone flames you, just say my bad and move on. The best mentality to have in solo queue in life and like in life and solo queue is to have the mindset to improve. Like there is no such thing as losing. We either win or we learn, right? Show compassion because we're all human and we're all on this planet for a reason. You deserve respect, and if you deserve it, then surely others deserve it as well, right? And again, think about it this way: if somebody is emotional, just take a second before replying and understand where they're coming from. Use your human empathy to simply understand like what they're trying to say, you know? If a house is on fire, you wouldn't set it ablaze with more fire to stop it, would you? You don't fight fire with fire. You would use water and settle it down, right? The second you stop taking offense to meaningless words online, you'll start to become a better player because you won't use your brain power to think of a witty response. You'll focus up and you know you'll achieve the common goal, which is to win the game. And again, these are my personal beliefs, so you're entitled to believe them or not. It's up to you.
Yeah, God bless everything that you said. Like, I agree almost entirely, like with everything you said. Like, there is just it's pretty obvious because you can see like examples basically. You can see people that are stuck for years and they simply just start focusing on themselves, like stop like chatting and like permanently flaming others, and it just shows in their rank. Like we've seen it again
Yep.
and again. I guess you did coaching in the past as well, yeah? Or you do coaching,
Yeah,
you
and
said.
I still do coaching. Yep.
Yeah, and you probably saw it in your students as well. Like eventually, like some of them will come back to you and say, "Oh, Kagaaro, like uh, I just randomly got 1,000 LP after like 1 month or something," you know?
Yep. Yep.
It's it's really just that simple. Like for many people, it's really just this simple because they have the
I
skills,
agree.
but they just can't use it. You know? Right then. So let's swap a bit. Let's just swap a bit to the game itself now. And
Well,
what would you think is the best way of affecting the game? Let's say we have this scenario, yeah? Let's say you are 3-0 at around 10 minutes. What is like the best thing that you could do right now, in your opinion?
sure. So the way I see it, Bowson's Law is straight up the most OP strategy in the game, in my opinion. Because again, with the new introduction of the amount of gold you get from neutral objective, jungle camps, vision, like the value of vision, tower platings, tier 2 towers being worth 700 gold, tier 3 being 400 gold, right? The game is not about kills anymore. It's not about that anymore. It's all about pressure and the vision you set up on the map. And the fact that, and if you're as a top laner, if you're 3-0, and let's say the enemy you're playing against a Malphite, right, who just sits under his tower, and he's just gonna wait until you shove out the wave. What can you do? Yeah, you can hit the tower a few times, but you're not gonna expand your lead that much. So how can you affect the game as a top laner? Proxy, proxy, proxy. Because the value of proxying opens up the map. It allows you to play for your item advantages, and you're basically going to have a resource advantage in terms of HP and mana, because you're always going to have one reset above the enemy laner, right? So, and again, eventually the enemy laner has to reset, and if they don't have TP, you're going to crack those tower platings. You're going to take these towers. You're going to get these waves. You're going to get vision, right? And again, if you can't crack the tower platings, let's say against the Malphite or Gragas, who could just hold the wave and clear the wave like in front of their tower, at least you could drop vision in the enemy jungler, threaten the enemy jungler on their camps, and if they're on the other side of the map, you could just take their camps, right? And essentially, with Proxin, you have a free turn. League of Legends is a turn-based game, right? Like this is something that I figured out, or not figured out, but I listened to when I was listening to some coaches, especially in competitive, right?
Kind of, yeah.
League
I
of
did
Legends.
hear about that. I did hear
Yeah,
about
League
that
of Legends
statement
is
before.
a turn-based game. When it's your turn, you can set up vision, you can take over quadrants, set up drakes, etc. Right? But when it's the enemy's turn, you have to either cross map and essentially trade on the other side of the map, or you can try to skill check them, right? But on your free turn, when you're proxying, because you're always going to be a wave ahead of the in front of your enemy laner, you can even roam mid or TP bot for a gank because you just proxied the wave, and the enemy laner has to stay under their tower or in between the towers or match the proxy to get the wave, right? And if you're able to make it into a proxying position, you're always going to come out ahead. So I would say if you're a top laner, start to like learn how to proxy and abuse the shit out of it because it's too OP.
Oh yeah, I even played against the boss the other day, and I can see like why he's like such a good player, and like why it's so hard to play against him with his strategy and everything. Like people call him an inter, but it's so
No,
hard to have impact simply
100%. I
because
think
he will always be first. He will always be the first to initiate the fights. You see?
100%. I think Baus is again. I don't want to glaze too much, but I think he's incredibly smart about the game. He understands wave states and he understands top lane fundamentally at a very, very, very high level. And one thing that I think the best quality about him is the fact that he isn't afraid to take deaths, right? Again, it comes down, I want to mention this point over and over again because people are too fixated on KDA. A lot of older players, like challenger players, especially in higher elo, have been playing the game for a long, long time, right? So I feel like they're still under the impression that kills wins games, but that is not the case anymore. We're living in 2025, bro. Like the last 3, 4 seasons has been about playing the map rather than kills, right? And the fact that if you're able to understand that and you're able to not hyperfixate on kills, and if because for example, when people play against Baus, everybody loves to kill him. Everybody loves to kill him because you think he's a free kill, but
Yeah.
what people don't understand is that the amount of time you're wasting on killing him, he's getting his resources. He's basically worth what 160 gold, 200 gold after his sixth death, right? But you're losing out on a cannon wave. Cannon wave is worth 180 gold. But when you introduce the XP value as well, you're basically losing 250 gold, right? Worth of XP and gold. But then Baus is only giving you 160. So he's actually gets like a net profit of like 80, 90 gold per play, right? And again, XP is one of the most broken things in the game. I think somebody did the math on it about how I think levels are worth like I don't know, like 2,000 gold or some shit like that. I don't know, but
Like
somebody
level?
can
No.
correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, like because you get
Yeah,
a
I
lot of
think it was
stats,
like
right?
yeah, a bit less. Like I think it was
A
like
bit less, yeah,
600 to 800, but yeah.
yeah, something like that, yeah.
But yeah, I do like your input. I was more thinking about the aspect, or let's say you break tower and afterwards you like move bot and you try to get like numbers advantage of bot lane, for example, or like something like that. It was
Yeah, so
like
on
my
that.
main idea, but
Oh, okay, yeah. So on that, I mean, I can expand on that if you want me to.
yeah, you could see
Yeah.
something about it, yeah.
So yeah, I think if once you take the top tower, again, it depends on how early you take it. Perhaps let's say you take it by 14, 15 minutes, right? At that point, you don't want to go bots because your bot lane still wants to play laning phase, and again, your mid laner also wants to play laning phase. I would only force a swap when it's beneficial for us, right? Let's say, actually, no. I would argue that if you take the top tower first, your mid laner can shift into top, and then your bot lane can shift into mid, and you can take over bot because now you have a man advantage. Or for Herald when it spawns around 14 minutes or whatever, and the fact that if you mismatch the laning, like I guess the lane priority or the lane states or whatever, because you're forcing the swap, the enemy team has to match you, right? So
Yeah,
when
kind
your
of.
bot laner goes mid, your enemy bot laner has to match it mid as well, or they're gonna lose tower platings, right? So when it comes down to that, rather than playing for kills, rather than ganking or forcing your pressure, just play for the correct map state, and then you're gonna win from that way, 100%.
Right, man. Right, let's go on a bit of a different topic. What champion would you delete right now? Like,
Oh,
what champion do you just hate?
bro, I absolutely hate this Jace champion, bro. Like it's so
Oh,
disgustingly broken. Like I've played against hundreds of Jaces at this point, and you know what? I only actually figured out yesterday when I was playing an ARAM game, right, that a Jace E Hammer deals an additional 22% max health damage. Like what the fuck, bro?
wait, you didn't know that?
22%. I didn't know that. I always thought that Jace's damage came from his like the fact he has like 6 abilities, right? QWE, range and hammer form, whatever.
Yeah, it
But
does. It does, kind of.
I didn't understand that Jace had 22% max health damage. Like the fact he can upgrade his ability 6 times and his damage is way insane. He's got insane mobility. He has hammer form. He gets like armor and magic resist when he shifts into armor or his hammer form. He has inbuilt magic shred or armor shred with his range auto passive. He has mana regen with his cannon form. He can stack Conqueror W with his W. He can take Phase Rush. He could take Grasp if he wants. Obviously now not anymore because they nerfed it. But in my opinion, he's just an incredibly overtuned champion. But that being said, I do think he takes a ridiculous amount of skill, right? So to
Yeah, he
master him
does.
and
He
play him at
does.
the highest level, not everyone can play him and go 1v9 mode. So that is his only downside. And to be honest, I am a biased Trundle OTP, and I hate that champion. So again, I could just be waffling, but like I just hate that champion. That's just I just hate it.
Yeah, he does counter you, and a lot of other like high-low players would probably agree that Jace is like consistently top tier in like Master Plus, simply because
100%.
like with a Malphite ban, he's relatively one of the most first pickable champs in the game, and because he's like both range and melee, if you think about it, and he's
Yep,
got good
yep,
speed. He can also run with grasp.
yep.
Probably not so much anymore, but
Mhm.
people do run grasp a lot of him, a lot
Yeah,
on him, and it just makes like matchups like he kind of neutralizes the matchups in a way, if you think about it.
100%.
And he
Yep.
also outscales you.
Yeah, I think the best thing about Jace is the fact he can go neutral, if not slightly winning, in basically every single matchup. I know you used Malphite as an example, and again, I could be completely wrong, but I feel like even if you put a good enough player on Jace versus Malphite, sure, Malphite could at level 6 just run him down, right? But a good Jace would at least go 10 CS per minute. 10 CS per minute. Malphite's going to drop 10, 15 CS. You're going to be winning automatically. Like, that is a win in my eyes, right? So I just think that champion is just so broken because he's blind pickable, he's an amazing counter pick, and he can at least go neutral in basically 90% of his matchups.
I see, I see. Right then, Kagaru. And for my last question, or for my last topic, Do you feel like League changed your life in any way, or what do you think about it?
100%.
Like,
I think, yeah, I think League of Legends, again, because I've been playing since season 4, right? League has been a massive part of my life, and I absolutely love the game, right? But I think in terms of like, if we're talking about skills or habits that I've like kind of gained from League, the two things have been my social skills and understanding that people can't read your mind, right? Because I've met people through League of Legends solo queued who I would consider great friends, you know? And to me, I would still consider myself as an introverted person. But one thing that League has allowed me to do is practice my social skills, right? I speak to a lot of people and I can try to understand and match their energy, continue a conversation. And that's something I used to struggle with a lot in the past, right? And another thing that I've developed through League is the idea that people you interact with can't read your mind, you know. Some people are gifted with the social skills to be able to perceive emotions, and like through certain mannerisms, like for example hand gestures, you know, facial like you know, whatever it's called. But I think most people, including me, I'm not gifted with that natural charisma to understand that, right? But
yeah, I see what you
through
mean.
playing League of Legends, I understand that people can't read my mind, right? There are some times, for example, when I want my team to start Baron, right? And I see 3 people collapsing me on bot lane, and it might be incredibly obvious for me for my team to start Baron, but again, other people might not see it that way. So and the point I'm trying to make is that if you don't ask, you don't get, right? The worst case scenario is that they'll just say no, right? When it like, for example, I personally used to get scared or I get nervous when, for example, when I call the pizza place for an order, right? I used to get scared of
Oh,
asking people for things. But like
yeah, yeah.
unironically, through League of Legends, I understand that people don't, first of all, they don't care what you're saying, and second of all, they can't read your mind. And the only way for them to understand you is for you to communicate what you want. And again, the worst case scenario is them saying no. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's amazing. If League actually allowed you to improve on that, like I really didn't expect this answer. Like I was thinking you are gonna give something like more vague, or but hey, that's amazing, dude. And do you have a routine, or do you have a way of playing League, like a ritual before it? Like do you eat something, or
Nah,
anything like
nah.
that? No, you just
Not
get
not
into
at
it.
all. Basically, I mean, my champion is so simplistic. I don't need a warm up routine or anything. You know, like I don't understand if you're playing like a more mechanically intensive champion, but bro, I play Trundle. All I have to do is just close my eyes, listen to music, and play the game. You know.
Okay, I see, I see. Because and I feel like certain champions reflect people's personality a bit. Like you said, Trundle is like a simple champion, so you don't really have a routine or like a ritual, or let's say you lose a game or two and then you go out and do something specific or something like that, you know?
Hmm.
So yeah, I feel like it reflects a bit what
Oh,
champion you play. It
100%.
reflects a bit your personality.
I mean, you can look at the L9 personalities, the Draven, Kassadin, Twitch players, bro. Like, I don't know if that's actually like how those type of mains or OTPs are, or if it's just because they're like, you know, following the, you know, what's meta, which is basically just being toxic, whatever. But I mean, yeah, it definitely does reflect. I mean, certain OTPs are a lot more kinder than others, I would say. But it's a different question. You know, I could go on for ages, but for now, it's all good. It's all good.
Right then, and yeah, that's about it. What can I say? Thank you so much for being here, man. Like
Thank you so
it's
much for having me on. It was a pleasure.
and you can shout out your socials and everything, or if you want.
Okay. Yo, guys, don't forget, follow up and drop a Twitch Prime or Tier 1 to twitch.tv/Kagaaro. Kagura MVP on or Twitter or X. Kagaaro TV on YouTube and TikTok. And soon come, I'm going to be multi-streaming on Kick. My basically the same name, Kagaaro, on Kick. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It was a pleasure to be here.
All right, you're right. And do you have anything else to say for the people watching? Like, what would your last idea be?
Um, Not necessarily. I don't really have any message to send to the viewers apart from just keep doing what you're doing. Don't give up. You know, life is a beautiful thing. Just keep on going. I know times can be rough. I've been through them myself, but guarantee you, time will pass and you'll find your purpose in life. 100%. Keep on going.
Hey, that's amazing, man. All right, dude.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.